Hi, and welcome back. So I learned quite a bit since the last video I posted talking about the honestly suboptimal weapon switching speed in Warframe, and I have uncovered a lot. From the actual math on how the weapon switch speed is calculated, to the fact that none of it matters since it seems to have a huge cap on how fast you can swap, to seeing posts on the forums, Reddit, and YouTube talking about how weapon swap speed has been neglected and has lagged behind in the evolution of this game. So I've decided to make another video on this topic, since there is so much more to talk about. And said video will be structured like this, so you can go and check any part that you particularly want. However, nevertheless, I'd urge you to watch the entire thing, since all the information here relates to one another. So, the structure of the video. First, I will be correcting the mistakes that I made in the last video. Second, I will be investigating the current weapon swapping system in Warframe, and seeing if it's consistent with tests, obviously. Then I'll be talking about the current switching speed in Warframe and my thoughts on it. Afterwards I would be going over the arguments against this and why they are wrong, as in the arguments against weapon switching being changed. Afterwards, of course, I will have my final thoughts on the topic and possible solutions to the problem at hand. So,
Part 1. Correcting mistakes.
Along our lives we tend to have dumb moments, and I had a few in the last video. First of all, I mentioned there were 4 mods that affected the holster speed in Warframe. This is incorrect. There are 8. Speed Holster, which gives an extra 120% holster speed. Coaction Drift, which can boost Speed Holster by 15%. Synth Reflex, which gives 100% holster speed. Vigorous Swap, which gives 100% holster speed. Streamlined Form, which gives 60% holster speed. And the 3 weapon type specific ones that give 200% holster speed for that weapon. And these are Twitch for rifles, Soft Hands for shotguns, and Reflex Draw for pistols. As to the statement that I showed in the last video, that wasn't necessarily about DE encouraging weapon comboing, however it doesn't discourage it either. We will get back to this soon.
Part 2. Investigating the current weapon swapping system in Warframe and seeing if it's consistent with tests.
Now, I am aware that swapping from any gun to melee is instant, however I'm talking strictly about switching between guns, i.e. primary and secondary. And so we arrive at the math of the issue. The math for how the weapon swap speed is calculated is this. Now I know most of you don't care much for this math, but it's crucial for what I'm about to test. So this is how the following tests are going to go. I will show you 4 clips. The first will be with no mods. The second is going to be with all Warframe holster speed mods. The third is going to be with all Warframe and weapon holster speed mods on primary and secondary. And the fourth will be all of the above plus a full squad with speed holster and coaction drift equipped. We could push this further with high powered strength toxic chromas, since that increases weapon holster speed, but that is a fruitless endeavor and you will see why soon. Also, these are the expected times for this experiment, and now for the actual times of the clips. So, let's examine this new information. Cue the royalty-free jazz, please. Thank you. First clip with no mods has a time of 1.15 seconds. Second clip with all Warframe mods has a time of 0.48 seconds. Third clip is with all Warframe and weapon mods respectively with a time of 0.48 seconds. Fourth clip is all of the above with a full squad of speed holster and coaction drift. This one has a time of 0.48 seconds. Now, as you can see, we couldn't go any further than 0.48 seconds. And the times are so far away from the expected, which is not consistent as you might have guessed. Now, why could this be? Well, my theory is weapon switching has 3 parts. One part is the animation of you holstering your current weapon, second part is a pause where you do nothing at all other than movement, and the third is the animation of you equipping the switched weapon. This is the only explanation I could come up with unless there is an intentional or unintentional cap on the Warframe weapon switch speed. But we will get into this later.
Oh yes, we will. Part 3. Switching speed in Warframe and my thoughts on it.
So now that we know the default holster speed is roughly about 1.2 seconds, let's talk about why this is too slow and why I believe this has been overlooked despite the type of game that Warframe is. Now, I've said this before, But in a fast-paced game like Warframe with a movement system as fluid as this, and the amount of control you have over your actions and power level, I'd honestly expect our Warframes to switch weapons quicker, if not instantly. For example, in other fast-paced shooters like Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, Vanquish, and Ultra Kill, weapon switching is so very more quick, snappy and responsive, and all around better, and it pains me to see Warframe lagging behind in this small but crucial department that does so much for the feel of a game. But, and this is a big but, I can understand why it has been overlooked. Mostly. The developers have great ambitions, with examples being the Plains of Eidolon, Fortuna, Railjack, and so much more. They are busy, constantly being pestered about reworks, rebalances, bugs, buffs, nerfs, and a lot more. They are probably flooded to their necks with what's happening in the world right now, and I believe they just forgot since so little people talk about it. You have no idea how long it took me to find these posts on the forums, the subreddit, and a very short video that Quite Shy made so long ago.
But, for some reason, they handle weapon switch like lethargic degenerates. And for no reason as well. Quick weapon switch won't break the game. In fact, it will make it objectively better, faster, and more fluid. So please, just make it instant and passive.
And all of these have great points. However, so little people care about this. But why? Why do people not care about this? Honestly, I believe it's because weapon switching isn't encouraged at all. Mostly because of it being slow and clunky, even with speed holster mods. Most of Warframe can be finished with a single weapon, and not even a melee or secondary. This has mostly led to people using one weapon for most of the time and only switching when absolutely necessary, or never. It's a shame, honestly, because the whole weapon system opens itself to a huge amount of synergies between them, but thanks to the current holster speed, it's just not possible or impractical. When I can reload faster than switching weapons, there is no point in doing so. But we will get into that discussion shortly. Oh, just you wait. Just you wait.
Part 4. Going over arguments against changing the current system and why they are wrong.
Now, so here we are, the part I've been waiting for the whole video. So let's get into it.
Just use holster speed mods.
We have already determined that the weapons holster speed mods have a cap on how much they can help, therefore making it useless if you want to get faster weapon swapping speed altogether.
We don't need to switch weapons quickly in Warframe.
Except we do. Once all bullets are shot and you start performing the reload dance, you have the option to whack stuff with your melee, which has no delay at all.
Warframe isn't a shooter.
Except it is.
Warframe doesn't need faster weapon switching because you can get through the entire game with just your primary, secondary, or your melee.
You can get through the entirety of pretty much any game with just one weapon. It's just not the easiest, most fun, or dynamic way of doing so. There is literally an entire genre of videos out there doing this very thing. You definitely can, but this doesn't mean that you need to. Comboing weapons in smart ways is part of the fun in these types of shooters as far as I know.
Shouldn't DE be working on more important stuff first?
Now, I'm not a developer. I'm merely a guy with a nice voice that has a small channel mostly dedicated to storytelling. But even I can use common sense and come to the conclusion that making another open world, reworking a piece of content, making a cinematic quest or a new game mode is much more work than fixing this tiny issue that has been in the game since before I started playing.
Maybe DE's trying to balance the amount of damage we can do, that's why this weapon switch speed cap exists.
Now, I'd be inclined to believe this if it weren't for the fact that instant melee is a thing now. So that argument stops where it starts.
Just use Octavia and Brahma, forehead.
This argument in particular says that the argument that I propose doesn't really exist because there are other types of things that do what you want to do quicker and easier than fixing the issue altogether. And to that I respond,
Octavia is fucking boring to play and overpowered as fuck and shouldn't be used as a way to deflect a well-constructed argument. Please try again later.
And the final one, I will leave it for the end.
Part 5. Final thoughts on the topic and how I think it can be fixed altogether.
As my closing statement, I'll say that we already have instant weapon switching in Warframe. Well, sort of. It's mostly when inserting the data mass into a defense mission console, giving an excavator a battery, inserting fuel or coolant cells in their slots in sabotage missions, or picking up a spear gun. All of these instances will see you swapping from secondary to primary instantly. So with all that has been said, I'd suggest weapon switching be changed to be near instant by default so that we could get rid of the speed holster mods entirely. If this weren't to be the case, at least fix the weapon holster mod so they don't have an intentional or unintentional cap, despite them supposed to be giving great bonuses to what is already a slow swapping speed in the context of the game. Now, for the final argument. Who cares? I care. And many others do. Probably too much for our own good. But maybe I'm just shouting into the void with this video. An issue that never will be resolved. Despite my thousands of hours in this game, maybe asking for a simple fix is too much and I should be grateful for the amount of fun I've gotten from this game. Maybe loving this game so much comes at a cost that wanting it to be better, even if it's something as small as this, is too much to ask for. Regardless, I'll keep trying. This is, after all, the dumbest hill I'll decide to die on. This has been a kind word on Warframe weapon switching speed. Thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Cheers.